in this parsha of Pinchas, the Haftorah portion, if it's read, if Pinchas is read before the 17th of Tammuz, it would be First Kings. However, if it's read on the 17th of Tammuz moving forward, it would be Jeremiah. And that's because from the 17th of Tammuz, it puts you in this 3 week period. They call it the 3 weeks of destruction, the three of destruction, and therefore the Haftorah also follows that theme. And even after Tisha B'Av, for the next 7 weeks, it also follows the theme of consolation. So it's 7 weeks of consolation. So, but it's just Pinchas always falls on that line where it's either before or after. So with that, I'd like to start in the text. And this would be the reading is from Jeremiah. Start at the very beginning of the chapter. It starts off giving his lineage, and then it goes into explaining who reigned as king. And during those, it's real specific about who reigned as king, and it says that it's the only time during those that reign, it's the only time that he had received prophecy from Hashem. Then the text goes into talking about Jeremiah's mission and what his mission would be. And Hashem tells him, I knew you. He says, I formed you in the belly. Before I formed you in the belly, I knew you. Before you left the womb, I sanctified you. And I established you as a prophet under the nations. So he's been given his mission. The nations, Rashi comments that the nations here in this text represents the Jews that were acting like non-Jews. Nevertheless, he was the prophet of the nations at that time. Then goes on to Jeremiah starts saying, well, wait a second. He starts having reservations. He goes, I'm too young. I'm not up for this. I'm too young. And Shem tells him, he says, do not say I am just a youth, because wherever he sends him, he's going to go. Whatever he commands him to say, he's going to speak. And the last requirement is do not fear, because I am going to be here with you to rescue you. I'll be here. There's this, you can do this. So he goes on then to tell him what his mission is, and what he's about to bring across is going to be words of tragedy and words of good. And the words of tragedy used in this text outnumber the words of good 4-2. So he's kind of giving them an idea there. You are going to be speaking about more bad tides than good, more bad times than good times. So it's kind of giving him a little hint of what he's got to look forward to. And then Jeremiah, he has these two visions. And Hashem asks him the first one, he goes, what do you see? What do you see, Jeremiah? And he goes, I see a staff of an almond tree. And he goes, you have seen well. You have seen well, for I will hasten to fulfill my word. In other words, it's going to come quickly. It said that an almond, once it blossoms, it only takes 21 days for it to become ripe. 21 days happens to be the period from the 17th of Tammuz to Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. So he's letting them know it's going to be quick, it's going to come in fast. Then he has a second vision, and Hashem asks him again, what do you see? He goes, I see a bubbling pot, and its spout is pointed north. He goes, yeah, they're going to come from the north. See, he's just laying it out. You've interpreted these correctly. So then Hashem starts to tell him, and he says, it's because they have forsaken me and burned incense to the gods of others and prostrated themselves to their own handiwork. So there's commentary in here that says this is like Hashem has a legal claim on the people. And he's going to call on the nations of the world to sit judgment against Israel. It's like, wow, that's that was pretty tough to read. I was like, wow. So then after he lays this on him, he then tells him kind of start to offer some words of encouragement. He tells him, he tells him to Jeremiah to undertake his new mission. He needs to be fearless and confident. He needs to be fearless and confident, because if he's lacking in trust in Hashem at all, that lack, and he will not merit his protection. He's not going to merit the protection if he doesn't believe in what he's trying to, what he's saying. It says, but Jeremiah should know that Hashem has made him strong as a fortified city against those who would be coming for him to kill him, but he would not fear, because Hashem would be with him. Now it says to be with him. I don't know why that right there kind of says, well, several times throughout this text. In the beginning, he says he knew him before he was formed. And then he says he knew him before he left the womb. And then he tells him not to fear because he'll be there to rescue him. And then he tells him again, don't fear. I'm going to be here with you. It was like telling us, they say when we read the Tanakh, when we read the Torah, to process this as if it was you. It's not some once upon a time there was a man named Jeremiah. He's talking to us, and he's constantly telling us, I'm with you. I'm with you in the beginning, I'm with you during, I'm going to be with you afterwards. It's such it blew me away. And then the Haftorah ends, with after, he says the Haftorah ends with Jeremiah recalling Israel going after God into the wilderness. These beautiful words of kind of bringing in, kind of referencing teshuvah, to return. Going back to verses 6 and 8 of the first chapter, kind of echoing what Rod was saying in his first. Hashem tells him, I'm too young. I can't do this. It's like, and then he says, no, you need to not say this. You can't say that you're too young. We are capable of so much. We are capable of so many things. We have this power within us. If we have an opportunity to do something positive, we need to do it. There was a class that we had attended about a month ago with Rabbi Wolbe, and he was providing some commentary that was speaking of coming to the level of the Tzaddikim, coming to the level of Moshe. It's like coming to the level of Moshe. I mean, he spoke to God. He was face to face. He did all these great things. What does that mean? And he proceeded to tell us and explain that it's all relative. It's all where we come in on the spectrum. If Moses came in at level 1,000 and he reached 1,020, if we came in on level -10 and reached 10, we've achieved those levels. We've achieved those levels of Moses. We've achieved those levels of Tzaddikim. And that was empowering. That was empowering. Just like in this verse, in this Haftorah, there's a phrase in there where, metaphorically speaking, Hashem reached out his hand and he touched Jeremiah's lips. He touched his lips. He empowered him. He gave him words of the prophecies. And that was a really, really good message. Like Rod was saying, says we often rely upon others to kind of do what we're thinking or do what we're saying. You guys all know Rod has been asking me to do the Haftorah for about 2 years now. Well, no, about a year. He said when we moved in here, he says, you got till April, And I kept saying, I'm not ready. I'm not worthy of, what I'm reading, I revere so much. Are you kidding me? I can't do this. How am I going to bring it across? How am I going to try to get this out there? But we're capable of so much more. We're capable of reaching those levels of the Tzaddikim. We just have to say yes. I can do it, and let's do it.